Chronicles TV on air. We are now live in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back to another episode of Ace Attorney, the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. In the previous episode, we completed the investigations part for this episode of this, whatever you may call it. Today, we're going to go into the trial part. If you heard today's episode, make sure that like button subscribe to the channel. Well, I never expected this. Who would have thought that we'd be back here again so soon? We are on a study tour of Great Britain with the intention of learning the country's legal practices. In order to research the latest court procedures here, we need as much court experience as possible. Well, yes, I suppose that's true, but for the person in the dock, it may well be his or her one and only time in court, and it could be life-changing. In which case, treating it as a research may seem a little crass. Oh, when you put it like that, you're quite right. Good morning. Good morning. Ah, Mr. Natsume, good morning. Oh dear, are you alright? Your eyes are terribly bloodshot. The early bird catches the worm, as they say here in Britain. Yes, I heard that expression. But I really don't want to catch a worm. So I tried desperately not to wake up early, but I was so worried I couldn't catch a wink. And now I'm absolutely exhausted as a result. Do all literary people take things so literally? Literary. Thank you for putting your faith in us today, Mr. Natsume. I wish I had 9 lives. My whole future hangs in the balance. I'm too terrified to tremble. Really? Because I can feel tremors on the floor. I can't do this. I can't take it. Although locum student Mr. Naro Esquire. Yes. I caught a glimpse of the public gallery as I walked by the courtroom. It looked like the opening night of the opera. There were so many people. I had no idea my case was such a notorious affair here in London. Neither did I. Who is the victim anyways? Do you know why that might be, Miss Susato? I'm sorry, Mr. Naruhodo, but I have no idea. So that all-knowing look in your face is just coincidence then, is it? Don't hide the truth from me. It's because of the Reaper, isn't it? Lord Von Zykes. Is that right, Miss Susato? I purchased as many different newspapers as I could find this morning, and yes, Lord Von Zykes is on the front page of every one. I knew it. Sometime after the prosecutor was dubbed the Reaper of the Bailey, he stopped appearing in court, it seems. It's been several years now, in fact, until the day before yesterday. Yes, Inspector Gregson told us something similar, didn't it? Okay, we don't need that. The trial 2 days ago, Mark Von Zykes returned to the courtroom after a very long hiatus. The trial of Magnus McGilded. What a harrowing experience that was. I believe that appearance made even greater waves here in the capital than today's. Well, we wouldn't have realized, of course, having only just arrived in the country. Why is the Reaper back in the Bailey so soon for what appears to be a mundane murder? That's the question the papers are asking, and they are all speculating various answers. Mundane? It's the most significant saga of the century to some of us. Oh dear, I mean no offense, Mr. Natsume, but that is how the papers are describing it. Well, lest we also forget the fact that it could spark an international incident. Obviously, the reappearance of the infamous prosecutor has caught people's attention, but there's another blatant similarity with the trial 2 days ago. Yes, I agree. Locum student Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. It's you! Me? Well, I suppose that's true. Both times it is you who stand against this legendary prosecutor. It can only mean that you're friends with the Reaper! Please, I don't rub shoulders with Deathbringers. I'm afraid that there's really one explanation. It can only be another example, Mr. Naruhodo, of your uncommon bad luck. Thanks for that. Oh, this is my luck. Why must I be represented by a man with such frail fortune? By the least lucky lawyer alive. Well, let's not forget that it was you, Mr. Natsume, who asked me to represent you. Yes, it's true that I am a student, new to London with little in the way of experience or skills or luck. But I promise you this, I will fight your corner until the bitter end, and I will believe you, Mr. Natsume. Oh, benevolent locum student, Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. You're not alone here with us, Mr. Natsume. Whatever happens, we will always be on your side. Oh, benevolent non-locums assistant Miss Mikotoba Esquires. Esquires? I am in your debt forever. I shall never forget this bit kindness for as long as live. Mr. Natsume, counsel for the defense. The court session is now about to begin. Kindly make your way to the courtroom at once. Alright then, Mr. Natsume. It's time. Let's go. Yes! This is it. My second appearance in a British courtroom. And my second trial against the Reaper. I hope you're watching over me, Kazuma. Because this time, I won't let my faith waver. I'll believe in my client to the last. Just like you believe in me. I believe I can do this now. I'm ready for this fight. Do we get the same jurors or do they swap out? That's my question. Oh, different ones. And look who's here as a juror. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session. I now call upon the counsels for the prosecution and defense to declare their willingness to proceed. The prosecution is fully prepared, my lord. The defense is ready, my lord. The Nipponese are a truly fascinating breed. Sorry, what? Lord Strongheart has told me all about you. That you are a student who arrived in London but 2 days ago. A mere amateur. Do you have a point? Being a compatriot, you feel compelled to try to help the accused, I suppose. Typical Nipponese arrogance. Forgive me, but I do not believe arrogance is an appropriate description. Susato-san. After all, at our previous encounter, the defendant was found to be innocent. Very true, and a most fascinating, if dark trial it was too. The tragic conclusion came later, of course. Here's to the acquitted, and his unfortunate violent end. Thank you, counsels. I see both sides are in fine fiddle. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, are you ready to carry out your duties here in court as impartial members of the public? You never know when you might be down on your luck, but I believe in fair play for everyone. The banker. Well, I must warn you, I'm rather more ruthless than I appear. Is that the Hatter? Oh, well, not me. What you see is what you get. I'm a peace-loving fellow. Isn't he the Hatter? The maid! I'm afraid to say I think it's quite possible that mustached foreigner did the deed. Come on, what are we waiting for? No doubt he did anyway. Sorry, didn't quite catch that. Very well, let us proceed. Your opening statement, if you please, Lord Von Zykes. Very recently, Great Britain signed an alliance with a rising power in the Far East. The accused in the dock today is a student from the same land, a certain Mr. Soseki Natsume. And while our country has extended this foreign student the warmth of welcomes, regrettably, the kindness has not been returned. In fact, the student is accused of most sinister act. Of plunging a knife into the back of an innocent woman who was doing nothing but walking down the street. A knife crime, I tell you from bitter experience, those are the worst, bloody off they are. Just look at that swallow complexion and short stature. He's one of the dreadful Japanese. Come on, let's get this over with me now. Everyone, 1, 2, 3. Sorry, didn't quite catch that. Pray forgive the discourtesy of smashing my hollowed chalice here in this great chamber. Allow me to call the first witness to the stand. Very well. Bailiff, lead the inspector in, please. Gregson? Gregson! He's a Dick Gumshoes of Great Britain. Your name and occupation, please. Yes, sir. Tobias Gregson, Detective Inspector at Scotland Yard. Would you please summarize the events of the case for the court inspector? So he's the Dick Gumshoes for the Great Britain. Got it. The victim is thought to be a young woman in her 20s by the name of Olive Green. I beg your pardon, Inspector? Thought to be? Yes, having been stabbed in the back by the attacker's knife, the victim fell unconscious. That was 3 days ago now, and she's been comatose ever since. What? So they don't even know who she is for sure? Comatose, I see, but her life is not in danger? Fortunately for the Eastern student, the charge will not be murder. Pray, elaborate on the details, Inspector. Sir, if I could ask everyone to look at the street map. As I mentioned, the incident took place 3 days ago, at around 5 in the afternoon. It happened on the pavement running alongside Briar Road in a wide thoroughfare for the horse-drawn vehicles. If I had not long since stopped snowing at the victim, Miss Green, was walking down the street. Out of the blue, she was approached from behind by the accused and stabbed in the back. Why did they give him this mugshot? Luckily, the young lady's life was spared, and she's currently being treated in one of the city's hospitals. But being unconscious as she is, we've been unable to take a statement from her, of course. This is the case file with everything we know about the victim so far. Thank you, Inspector. The court will accept the documents as evidence, if you please. What of the weapon that was used? Sir, I have that here. It was removed from the victim's back. Ouch, that big thing is starting to make me scared to walk down the street now. With a heavy blade like that, almost anybody would have been able to stab a poor woman. Even the scrag-looking Soseki-san, I suppose. A common or garden jackknife. I would say rather nondescript. Thank you, Inspector. The court accepts the blade as evidence. The jackknife. Now then, what do we know of the motive? Money or valuables, I presume? From what we could tell you by looking at the woman's possessions, it seems like she's a poor student herself. Hard to imagine she would have had anything much worth pinching, my lord. I say, well in that case, are we looking at some deep-seated resentment toward the victim? I'm afraid I couldn't say. Apart from visiting second-hand bookshops, the defendant, Matsunasumi, doesn't appear to get out much. At this moment in time, we haven't been able to establish any sort of connection between him and the victim. Yes! If theft and grievance had been ruled out of this motive, what reason could Mr. Natsume possibly have had for stabbing the young woman? Yet you arrested the man in spite of that, in a totally unjustified and heavy-handed way. Objection! Why the bottle? Pray, forgive the discourtesy of flinging a freshly uncorked bottle into the public gallery. But your words have soured its hollow bouquet? For it is you, my learned friend, who is being heavy-handed here. What? Scotland Yard does not arrest people without good cause. That should be beyond question. Inspector Gregson, the prosecution calls for your formal testimony. Explain to the court precisely why the constabulary came to arrest the Nipponese student. Yes, sir. As I said, it was 5 o'clock in the afternoon when the incident occurred, and there was unusually light fog. Visibility was really good, and there was no one else but the victim accused. Out of the blue, the victim was stabbed from behind and subsequently collapsed on the pavement. The accused ran off, scattering his belongings all over the floor. Those being a number of old books he just bought, he was on his way home from the bookshop, it seems. It was just a matter of working out who the books belonged to, and we found a bloke to arrest him. Old books, you say? Yes, my lord, I have a photograph here on the scene of the crime, taken immediately after the incident. Yikes. Ah, yes, I can clearly see the books to which you are referring. I will take the photographic print as evidence, please, Inspector. You Nipponese are a spineless breed, too cowardly to admit defeat. Denying everything despite overwhelming evidence to the contrary. Well, Forgive me, Lord Von Zax, but the defendant is not denying everything as you put it. What are you doing, Mr. Sato? You go on. Mr. Natsume had admitted to playing some part in the incident. Isn't that right, Mr. Naruhodo? Well, now you mention it. When we visited him in the prison yesterday, he did tell us what had all happened. Walking along the cursed pavement, I could wake out the sole silhouette of another ahead of me. A woman wearing a green overcoat she was, and then just as I went to overtake her, she suddenly let out a little scream and collapsed onto the coat, and her heart slouched on the stone at my feet. I was terrified. I had to get away from there, so I ran as fast as my legs carried me back to the course lodging. A green overcoat. Well, that's exactly what the woman in the print is wearing. Why do I feel like that's the same guy from... Oh my, photograph picked in full color. What would the world come up next? What year are we on? The defendant has done nothing more than admit he fled the scene of the terrifying incident. That does not mean that he's guilty of the heinous crime of stabbing a woman in the back. There was nobody else there at the time. Just the two of them, the victim and the accused. In other words, there is nobody else who could possibly have stabbed the woman. A fact that accused concedes. It seems this cross-examination could have proved to be pivotal, counsel. Proceed, please. Yes, my lord. Natsume's what? Arrest? Okay, what do we have as evidence? We have local map. We have second-hand book receipt. Let's see it. Mr. Natsume, a sum of 2 shillings tendered in receipt of the picture Monsieur Lecoq, Amia for Ocor Gabriel, Canterbury earrings at 4:45. Young woman rendered unconscious following a stab wound to the back. Victim olive green. Female, stout, build, early 20. Olive green, she looks like an olive. Pavement of the Briarwood East Side. Reporting Officer Royal Beat. The victim remains unconscious. Her name was gleaned from her personal effects. Other details are unknown. Apart from the single stab wound from the largest knife, no other signs of injury were observed. The assailant was seen running away by reporting the officer. Was seen running away by the reporting officer and was successfully arrested by the following day. Where's the blood? If she was stabbed, where's the blood? No brief description? Where's the blood in this thing? If she was stabbed, where's the blood? Oh, look here, Mr. Naruhodo, just a tip. A small piece of the blade appears to be missing. You're right. Well spotted, Mr. Sato. I wonder what could have happened to it. Yes, you don't think it could still be lodged in the victim, do you? Oh dear, I do hope not. That sounds terribly painful. But where's the blood? That's my question. Alright. As I said, it was 5 o'clock in the afternoon when the incident occurred, and there was an unusually lit fog. Visibility was reasonably good, and there was no one else but the victim and the accused. Out of the blue, the victim was stabbed from behind and subsequently collapsed on the pavement. The accused ran off, scattering his belongings all over the floor. Those being a number of books he just bought, he was on his way home in a bookstore. It seems it was just a matter of working out who the books belonged to, and we found the bloke to arrest him. All that is just the press. But one what? Hold it! A light fog, you say? Well, light fog for London. You could see the opposite side of the street for once. No much farther, though. That's light, is it? Around these parts, yes. Not something I expect a Japanese fellow like yourself know, of course. I've read that London is famous for its fog, but in my country, people usually imagine that it gives the city a rather beautiful appearance. Tisk, how quaint. Yes, well, it's not something us Londoners tend to romanticize, as I expect you can appreciate. I see. At this time of year, the fog causes a large number of accidents, especially when it's heavy. Sometimes you can't even see your own hand at the end of your arm. Indeed, the other day I was very nearly trampled by horses before I could see the carriage they were pulling. Sir Sato and I should definitely remember to stop, look, and listen. However, on the day that concerns us, the fog was somewhat lighter than usual. A fact no doubt lamented by the accused.
Hold it!
How are you able to state that with certainty? Quite simply, my learned friend. Because that's what the witness to this crime has told us. Ah yes, Inspector Gregson mentioned that witnesses yesterday, didn't he?
That's right. One of them is a policeman, I believe, from Scotland Yard.
That is correct, ma'am. Then we must hear their testimony. The prosecution will, of course, call them to the stand should it be necessary. But wait a minute. At 5 o'clock in the afternoon in the middle of the winter, it would have been dark already. No matter how light the fog might have been, no one could have seen. I'm unaware of the situation of your tiny island in the east. But here in the capital city of Great Britain, all main roads are illuminated in the night by the gas streetlights. The prosecution believes there would have been ample light by which to witness the crime. Quite. Here in London, for the first time in history, mankind has completely conquered the darkness. Which means we really need to hear those witnesses' statements. If I could just get through the fog of this cross-examination, maybe we'll be able to. It seems the counsel for the defense is taking stock. Continue with your testimony, Inspector.
Hold it!
From behind, you say? That's right, as you can see from this print. Yes, quite so, Inspector. The handle of the weapon is clearly protruding from the victim's back. And you say the poor woman, Miss Green, remains in a critical condition, comatose no less. I'm afraid so, my lord, yes, she's been trained at Bart's. I was hopeful she'd come around before the trial started, so I'd take a statement, but it wasn't to be. Yes, that is indeed a pity. It would have been the most illuminating to hear the victim's own account of events. Luck is on your client's side, it seems. Ugh. On the contrary, my client has been exceedingly unlucky. Your force of tone is seriously undermined by those disturbingly wide eyes, I'm afraid.
Hold it!
Mr. Natsume belongings? I think you'll find it all there in the photographic print of the crime scene. Yes, 3 books on the floor. That's right, my lord, second-hand books. They were irreparably damaged after falling in the snow, of course. The accused could easily have carried all 3 books in one hand, which means his other hand would have been free to wield a knife, for example.
He's very clever, isn't he?
What do you mean?
He's made it extremely hard for you to assert that Mr. Natsume had his hands full with his books. He's managed to close the one avenue of escape we might have before we even know it was there.
You mean to say the defendant was holding his belongings as he thrust the knife into the woman's back? That must be what happened, my lord, yes. Those being a number booked he just brought, he was on his way from it seems. The defendant apparently visits the second-hand bookshop on a daily basis. Yes, so I understand. A shop full of old English literature. I commend the accused on the lofty subject matter of his scholarly attention. The bloke's room was stacked full over to ceiling with those musty old books. Can you tell us more about the bookshop in question, please, Inspector? Well, if I must, I'll have to ask you to look at the street map again, I'm afraid.
Street map? The closest second-hand bookshop to the accused lodging is in the place here in Bourbon Books. A little place on the corner of the Briar Road and the Merchant Street. As it happened, the accused is currently living in lodgings on the other side of Briar Road at the opposite end. Which means it doesn't take a genius to work out the route he would have taken home. But something like this. The local map information has been updated in the court record. Yes, I concur with your conclusion, Inspector. The defendant would certainly have passed the scene of the crime on his way home from the particular shop. Mr. Naruhodo, I think that what the inspector just told us could turn out to be of vital importance. Yes, I agree. The most important point that the inspector just made being the location. The crucial detail in what you've just told the court inspector is the location of the bookshop. I couldn't agree more. So, where is it exactly? Eh? Are you winding me up, Sunshine? I just explained that. I got the map and everything. Used red blooming ink and drew the bloke's route home on for you. And I distinctly remember seeing you nod along, Counsel. Oh, yes. Yes, of course. I must have been so nervous I didn't take it in. The blunder of the day goes to you, my learned friend. No, not yet. The trial's only just begun after all. Mr. Naruhodo, I would strongly advise you to look carefully through the court record as the stage. Yes, miss. At once, miss. Sorry, I made a mistake, miss. Inspector, continue with the testimony, please. Okay, let's go back again. Court record. What was the importance of here? The shop was here. We go over here. The importance of was the distance it would take, because that's what I was thinking of.
Hold it!
So let's see this again and see if we can try any of the options. And we have to go through his explanation again. Because I thought it was just how long it will take from point A to point B. That's what all I was thinking. But what were the other two options? What does that mean? The bookshop's name? Because the location was the important one right there. I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with this. What? Would you mind kindly ask the name of the bookshop to your formal testimony, please? I believe it may be vital importance. Maybe? Oh, well, you know. I mean, yes. It could be a very important clue. Very well. Not that I can see it being any great significance. Well, please revise your testimony according, Inspector. Yes, sir, my lord. Whatever you say. Could that man be any more sardonic? He was on his way home from Bourbon Books, a second-hand bookshop he apparently patronizes. Your books. Gotcha. Let's do it.
Objection!
If I could just stop you there, Inspector Gregson. What is it, Sunshine? I'm a busy man, you know. You're in court. This is a receipt that we found in Mr. Natsume's room. It was issued on the day of the incident and details the purchase of the 3 second-hand books. And you found that in the accused's room, did you? Yes, but the point is not where the receipt was found, but the name of the shop printed on it. Go on. This receipt was issued from a bookshop called Your Books. Your Books? Your, I presume. Yes, my lord. So Mr. Natsume did indeed purchase a number of books at a second-hand bookshop that day. However, the bookshop in question was not Bourbon Books. What? Inspector, do you know of this other bookshop? Yes, sir. Your Books is another second-hand bookshop not far from Bourbon Books. It's just that, well, it's such a small place, I didn't think the accused would have known about it. But in fact, that is the bookshop which the defendant visited on the day in question. And this receipt proves it. Yes, for what difference it makes. Wherever the man purchases musty tomes, it makes no difference in the final analysis. I disagree. I mean, after all,
I have the street map here, if that might be of help.
Oh, yes, thank you. I have a look at this, please. If the defendant had been returning from Bourbon Books, then yes, he would almost certainly have passed the place where Miss Green was attacked. However, if we take account of the fact that he was actually at another bookshop, Your Books, it may be very well turned out that he wouldn't have passed that location at all.
Would that be true?
My, it rather depends on where the other bookshop is, but I do declare it may be a possibility.
Is that right, Mr. Lawyer, sir? What you just said? Absolutely, it's absolutely could be right. Okay, tell us where the other bookshop is at. Inspector Gregson, where is the Your Books establishment? What should be next door? Obviously, we looked into that. It turns out that Your Books is just here on the corner of Mearsham Street, going east. So if he was going from that direction, and there you have it. As you can clearly see now. Doesn't literally make no difference. Oh. It literally made no difference whatsoever. My learned Nipponese friend is obviously in training to be a clown. The way he regales us with such witticism. To your future career in the circus.
You put that glass down, or I'll put it down for you.
Didn't think I needed to spell it out, but here we go. If the accused was coming from Your Books instead of Bourbon Books, it made no difference. There's no doubt he still have passed the place where the victim was stabbed. And that's at 4:45. Yes, thank you, Inspector. Allow me to reiterate from I learned if somewhat slow Nipponese friend. Wherever the man purchases musty tomes, it makes no difference in the final analysis.
As I suspected, you can't fool me, and I don't suggest you try.
What did I say? I've had enough of this now. Beg your pardon? Terribly sorry, but would you mind repeating that?
Mr. Naruhodo, we mustn't give up. What do you mean? If the prosecution assertion is correct, the members of the jury may very well decide that Natsume is guilty.
She's absolutely right.
We must consider the assertion just put forward by the prosecution very, very carefully.
It claims Saseki-san must have passed the location, but raise an objection. Do we have a proof to back it up? The assertion just made by the prosecution is fundamentally flawed. Explain yourself, counsel. Yes, my lord. You can see what I mean in this map. When returning from Your Books to his lodging, Mr. Natsume could have followed the route suggested by the prosecution. However, that isn't the only conceivable route to take between the two places. If the defendant used this street, look what happens. He arrives back at his lodgings without passing the location where the victim was attacked.
Objection!
Talking back to a clown is a fool's errand, of course. However, I feel compelled to point out that that route is what I commonly refer to as the long way around. On a cold winter's night, why would any man choose to take a longer route home? Well, the answer is extremely simple. You wouldn't. In other words, the accused took the obvious route back to his lodging and is the obvious perpetrator of this crime. But, yes, I've got it. Obviously, we must ask the man himself. Ask Mr. Natsume which route he took home. I have already informed the court of the accused's response to such questioning. He claims he has no recollection. Huh. That's right. As I said, the bloke seems to spend his time outside wandering aimlessly from A to B. That day was no exception. He says he doesn't remember where he was or which route he took home.
I don't believe this.
I thank you, my learned friend, and suggest that we don't waste any more of this court's time by wandering aimlessly around this subject. Pray, what say you insightful jurors? Here we go again. But even if that is the case, the defense still hold it. Oh, here they go.
I agree with Lord Von Zykes, wholeheartedly and in every way.
What? I don't believe it. Does this mean?
We, members of the jury, are completely convinced now.
Very well. In that case, I hereby call upon all members of the jury to present your findings to the court.
Guilty!
Guilty.
Guilty! Guilty! Guilty!
He doesn't have a deep voice?
Okay, time to assert our rights. It would appear the jury's leaning is unanimous. To the insightful members of the jury, I applaud your brave resolve. You serve Queen and country admirably.
Mr. Naruhodo?
No, not yet. This isn't over yet. I still have one last chance to sway the opinion of the jury.
And with that, we'll end the episode right here. Next episode, we're going to go into the summation examination. Like and subscribe, Shortcut6TB, and I'm signing out.